Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Six Path Weeb. I'm glad to have you here on my YouTube channel. Today's fanfiction discussion explores an intriguing concept. What if Naruko were the true heir of the Uchiha clan? Disclaimer: the content shared on this channel is intended purely for entertainment and community discussion. I do not claim ownership of any anime footage featured in my videos. All rights and credits belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Now, without further ado, let's dive in. A man wearing a white mask with black markings and a dark cloak walks steadily toward the mouth of the cave. Obito-kun, came the calm voice from within, remember to return with a newborn Uchiha after retrieving what I asked for. The masked figure, Obito, turned to face his ailing mentor, Madara Uchiha. Despite his regal presence, time had clearly taken its toll on the older man. Dressed in deep black, Madara sat in composed silence. Yes, Madara-sensei, Obito replied respectfully before vanishing on his mission, to infiltrate the Hidden Leaf Village. 12 hours later. Obito reappeared in a spiraling vortex before Madara. His mask had cracks, and his cloak was torn, showing the struggle he had faced. In his arms was a swaddled infant. "Where is the Nine Tails?" Madara inquired, noting Obito's downcast expression. "The fourth Hokage was too strong," Obito admitted. "Kushina Uzumaki used her chakra chains to stabilize the Nine Tails, and Minato split its chakra, half sealed into their twin daughters, and the other half into their son. I couldn't extract the full beast, but I found this baby girl in the wreckage. Her name was written on the crib, Naruko. She's an Uchiha." Madara stared at the infant. Naruko blinked up at him before bursting into loud cries. "Take care of her for now," Madara said after a long pause. "Give her to me when she has grown." "Sensei, I have many preparations to make for your plan," Obito said hesitantly. Madara sighed. "Then bring food and supplies. I'll care for her. If you see Zetsu, inform him I require assistance with surveillance." 10 years later. In a dim chamber, 3 individuals were present. Madara sat in the center, flanked by Obito and a much older Naruko. Obito's cloak was now fully repaired, decorated with red clouds, and he wore a new orange mask. Madara, older still, showed clear signs of exhaustion. Naruko, no longer a baby, now stood confidently at 5 feet 5 inches, her black hair flowing with a silver sheen in her eyes. She wore a white cloak over practical training gear. Madara began coughing as he addressed his students. "Obito. Continue with the plans. Naruko. Support him when needed." His voice weakened with each word. "Remember what I taught you both." Naruko gave a soft nod as Madara leaned back and closed his eyes. Obito stood silently as Zetsu entered to preserve their mentor's resting form. Naruko turned away, her eyes reflective. Obito broke the silence. "Naruko, that's enough. We must meet the other members of the Akatsuki." Naruko lifted her gaze. "I'll decide what I do, Obito." She walked toward the exit. Obito frowned and raised a hand, ready to react, only for Naruko to vanish in a puff of ravens. "A shadow clone. She's becoming clever," he murmured. Looking up, he instructed, "Zetsu, find Naruko and observe her. If her actions become a concern, inform me. I must be prepared." Elsewhere, Naruko sighed as her clone's memories came flooding in. "What's your next step now?" A calm voice echoed in her mind. Naruko recognized it. It was the voice of Asura. Flashback, 4 years ago. A young Naruko climbed a tall waterfall while Madara and Obito observed from the top. Focused, she climbed with chakra gathered in her feet. But a rock slipped in the current and hit her ankle, breaking her rhythm. She began to fall. Obito prepared to leap down, but Madara held him back. "Let her find her own way. She'll grow stronger from this." As Naruko fell, fear filled her eyes, until everything slowed. Her senses sharpened. "Use that wind jutsu you favor," a voice whispered in her mind. Reacting quickly, Naruko formed hand seals. Wind release, great breakthrough. The force from her chakra created a wind burst that launched her upward, past the waterfall's peak, allowing her to land, roughly but safely, at the top. Madara looked at her and gave a rare smile. "Well done, Naruko. You've awakened something new." Indeed, she had. Her Sharingan had awakened. That night, lying on a simple stone bed, she recalled the voice. "Are you still there?" she asked. She soon found herself within her own mental landscape, a forest under stormy skies. Madara had trained her in meditation to sharpen her mind. Follow the voice, it instructed. She walked into a cave, where a man sat quietly. His spiked brown hair, bandaged locks, and light kimono marked him as unique. "And you are?" Naruko asked. He opened his eyes calmly. "Asura Otsutsuki. Son of Hagoromo, brother of Indra. And you?" "I'm Naruko. Uchiha," she responded. Asura smiled kindly. "You are more than that. You carry the blood of both Uchiha and Senju. Your father descended from Hashirama Senju, and your mother from Izuna Uchiha. You are both clans in one." Naruko sat down, listening with wide eyes. "I've watched through the eyes of my brothers, the tailed beasts. I saw what happened to your father, taken as a child and placed in an orphanage. I don't know who did it. But know this, you carry great legacy." Naruko smiled softly. "I wish I could have met my parents. Obito said they gave their lives to protect me. I hope they found peace." Asura's voice turned serious. "You must promise me something, seek peace with Indra's descendants." Naruko considered this. "If I meet one and we can work together, I'll give them a chance." "Good. Now rest. Tomorrow, we train, until you can walk on water without thought." Back in the present, Naruko gazed at the cave ceiling. "I can't believe Madara was my great-uncle." A faint chuckle echoed in her thoughts as Asura's presence lingered, gently guiding her path. Naruko smiled softly at the memory, then sighed. She was already starting to miss her uncle Madara. "I guess I'll just follow wherever the wind takes me," Naruko said with a thoughtful smirk, prompting a chuckle from her ancestor Asura. "It's quite poetic how this night marks both your beginning as Naruko Uchiha and also your birthday," Asura commented, watching her eyes widen in surprise as she realized she'd forgotten. "Thanks for the reminder. Not like there's cake waiting for me or anything," Naruko said, rubbing the back of her neck. Birthdays had never been that significant, except when Uncle Madara was around. Back then, every birthday meant learning a new jutsu. "I guess my birthday gift this year is a journey without Madara," Naruko added with a faint smile at her own bittersweet joke. Asura took this as his cue. "Cheer up, Naruko. This birthday, how about you do something for me? An adventure. You might really enjoy it." That got Naruko's attention. She paused mid-step, intrigued. "And what would that be?" After a thoughtful pause, Asura replied, "You've probably heard that some members of the Senju clan created the Uzumaki clan, who settled near the Land of Waves. Their village was known as the village hidden by whirling tides. I'd love to see how it's remembered, even if only its remains." Naruko respected Asura's deep care for his descendants. "All right, let's go," she exclaimed, immediately leaping from tree to tree. The journey took time. This was Naruko's first trip so far from home. With no precise directions and Asura's outdated memory of the landscape, they had to rely on locals along the way for guidance. Eventually, they reached a weathered sign, "Welcome to the Land of Waves." Naruko raised an eyebrow at its worn condition and stepped into the village. "I'm really hungry," Naruko muttered as her stomach rumbled. She checked her wallet. Thankfully, Obito had left her with enough money he'd found in a long-abandoned camp. As she looked around, the village's condition became clear. Many shops were damaged, and a large, shiny gold statue of a short figure stood at its center. Asura observed, "It looks like someone wealthy holds power here. I've seen places like this during my travels. Maybe I could help this village out, and see how I measure up," Naruko said, smiling at the challenge. Whoever was in charge might have hired strong shinobi. Suddenly, a woman's voice shouted in distress nearby. Naruko immediately followed the sound and arrived at a clearing where she recognized two ninja from the village hidden in the mist, known for their teamwork and unusual gauntlet weapons. The pair were confronting a young woman with dark blue hair, dressed in a pink shirt with red trim and a long blue skirt. She looked frightened and vulnerable. "Help her," Asura said calmly. Naruko didn't need the order, she was already moving. "What are you two doing with her?" Her voice echoed across the clearing. One of the brothers scoffed, "Just a kid. Stay out of this." "You should leave before you get hurt," the other added dismissively. "My name is Naruko Uchiha," she said firmly. "And I'm staying right here." The woman looked up into Naruko's determined eyes, hope flickering in her expression. The two ninja released the woman and roughly shoved her to the ground. Naruko's eyes narrowed as she slid her hands from the sleeves of her cloak. The brothers rushed her together, dust swirling beneath their feet. One of them swung a heavy fist, but Naruko intercepted the strike and drove a knee into his midsection. The other lunged, claws ready, but made the mistake of locking eyes with her activated Sharingan. He froze, caught in an illusion. Naruko swiftly disabled them both with calculated moves, rendering them unconscious. She was proud of herself for protecting someone and overcoming experienced opponents with strategy and skill. "You handled that well," Asura commented, though Naruko just rolled her eyes, brushing off the praise. Then she heard a quiet groan and mentally scolded herself. She had nearly forgotten about the woman she rescued. Turning off her Sharingan, Naruko rushed over and gently lifted the woman's head, checking her condition. "You're definitely not a medical nin," Asura chuckled. "She's not seriously hurt, just shaken. Carry her somewhere safe." Naruko nodded and carefully lifted the woman in her arms. "My name is Tsunami," the woman said softly. "Thank you for helping me." "Are you all right?" Naruko asked, concerned. "I've been through worse, but it's never been with ninja. Usually just troublemakers trying to scare us." "Tell me where you live. I'll take you there," Naruko offered. As they made their way through the village, Tsunami explained the situation, how a man named Gato had taken control and was causing the town distress. Naruko listened carefully, her resolve growing with every word. They arrived at a small, isolated home. Tsunami explained it had escaped Gato's attention so far. As soon as they were in view, the door opened. A man with short black hair stepped out. It was Keiza, Tsunami's husband. Beside him came their son, Inari, and an older man Naruko assumed was Tsunami's grandfather, Tazuna. "Tsunami," Keiza exclaimed, hurrying to her side as Naruko gently helped her stand. "Mom." Inari hugged her tightly, and Tazuna approached with a look of concern. "Keiza-kun, this is Naruko Uchiha," Tsunami said with gratitude. "She saved me from those two ninja." Keiza turned to Naruko with a thankful smile and extended his hand. She shook it. "Thank you for saving my wife. I'm truly grateful," he said warmly. "It was nothing," Naruko replied modestly. "I saw someone who needed help, and I wanted to step in." That night, they invited her to stay for dinner. Keiza and Tazuna did the cooking, making sure Tsunami rested. At the table, Naruko ate quickly, having not eaten for some time. She gave them a sheepish smile when they stared at her pace. "Naruko," Keiza said as they finished, "I know you've already done a lot. But could we ask for your help again? Gato and his men won't stop until they take everything from us. Will you help protect the workers and stand up to him?" Asura's voice chimed in Naruko's mind. "If you agree, you might get the chance to face strong opponents, and that statue showed how wealthy this Gato must be." Naruko nodded. "I'll help. Tomorrow I'll join you at the bridge and keep it safe. For now, tell me more about the village." They spent the rest of the evening discussing the region, including the nearby land once known as Uzushio, the home of the Uzumaki clan. The next morning, Naruko sat atop the roof in meditation, reflecting on her mission ahead. Inside the house, breakfast was being prepared with cheerful energy. Naruko appeared in the living room in a cloud of ravens, a stylish use of the body flicker technique. "Whoa, big sister Naruko. That was awesome. Can you teach me?" Inari asked with excitement. "Maybe later," Naruko said with a smile, ruffling his hair. "Tazuna, Keiza, I need you both to stay here today," Naruko said seriously. "There's an unfamiliar chakra presence near the bridge. It doesn't feel friendly, and I'd rather not risk either of you getting caught in a tough situation." Both men nodded in agreement. "Don't worry about the bridge," Keiza added. "We just started it, and the workers have the day off." Naruko nodded, comforted by that information. She was ready for whatever came next, determined to protect the people of the Land of Waves, and maybe find a little more purpose in the journey her birthday had unexpectedly brought her. "All right everyone, I might come back later," Naruko said with a warm smile. Just before she could step away, Tsunami wrapped her in a gentle hug, and for the first time, Naruko felt something close to a mother's love, something she had never experienced before. She also received encouraging pats on the back from both Tazuna and Keiza. Inari ran up to her and hugged her tearfully. "You better come back," they said with sincere concern. Naruko gave them one last smile before turning to follow the chakra signal Asura had sensed. When Naruko arrived at the bridge, the sight before her was both surprising and intense. Standing atop the water beneath the bridge was a tall, well-built man with pale skin, short spiky black hair, brown eyes, and a composed expression. His mouth was covered with bandages like a mask. He was wearing the traditional attire of the Hidden Mist village, with a massive sword, clearly marking him as one of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, strapped across his back. Naruko instantly recognized him as Zabuza Momochi. Beside him stood a young teen, likely a few years older than Naruko, with long black hair, a slender build, and calm, observant eyes. The teen wore a mist-style pinstriped outfit with a green haori and a brown sash wrapped neatly around the waist. This was Haku, Zabuza's loyal companion. I didn't expect Gato to hire such skilled ninja, Naruko said in mild astonishment. Zabuza and Haku turned their attention to the young kunoichi. Zabuza spoke up, "Are you a ninja? Were you the one who dealt with the demon brothers?" Naruko gave a confident smile. "Yes, that was me." "And why would you do that?" Zabuza asked. "Because the land of waves is under my protection now," Naruko said firmly. "If you don't leave, you'll have to deal with the strength of Naruko Uchiha." Zabuza's eyes narrowed, though the outline of a grin could be seen under his mask. "Me and Haku wouldn't mind seeing what kind of strength a young ninja like you can bring." Suddenly, a thick mist began to roll over the bridge. Naruko immediately activated her Sharingan and noticed the mist was infused with chakra. She felt a wave of intense pressure settle in the air. It wasn't physical, but it weighed heavily on her spirit. This presence. It's oppressive, Naruko thought. Madara-sensei didn't fully prepare me for something like this. Focus, Asura's voice echoed within her mind. Haku uses ice-style techniques. Stay sharp. Naruko was grateful that Asura's chakra sensing was still active, even if not as strong as before, it was still incredibly useful. Thanks to her Sharingan, Naruko detected movement in the mist. Instinctively, she drew a kunai from her pouch and raised it just in time to block an incoming strike. Zabuza's massive blade slammed into her kunai, and she quickly channeled chakra through the weapon to reinforce it. "You're about to learn why they once called me the Phantom of the Mist," Zabuza said, his tone low and foreboding as he pushed against her kunai with strength. "Stay alert, Naruko. Hesitation could cost you everything," Asura warned. Just as the weight of Zabuza's blade began to push her back, Asura's voice rang out again. "Naruko, behind you." "Of course, Haku." Naruko realized, spinning quickly to prepare for the next move in the rapidly intensifying encounter. Naruko's Sharingan gleamed brightly as she turned, sensing Haku appear behind her with a long ice needle. Time seemed to slow, a result of the Sharingan's ability to track rapid movement. "You're standing on water. Release the chakra from your feet, now," Asura's voice echoed in Naruko's mind. She immediately followed the advice, letting her chakra drop. She dipped below the water's surface just as Haku's needle collided with Zabuza's blade above. Naruko quickly redirected chakra to her feet and began sprinting upward through the water, as though climbing invisible steps. She broke through the surface, taking in a deep breath. Zabuza narrowed his eyes at the sight of Naruko's Sharingan. "So you are an Uchiha. I suppose you weren't bluffing," he said, the mist beginning to gather again. Soon, both Zabuza and Haku disappeared into the fog. Laughter echoed faintly from the mist. There was once a time in the hidden mist when young ninja had to face each other in real combat as a final test. The top-performing students were considered for the Elite 7 Ninja Swordsmen of the Mist. That changed after Zabuza Momochi, challenged the system, he recounted. During his speech, Naruko formed several shadow clones, directing them to spread out. "That's why they call me the Phantom of the Mist," Zabuza declared as his sword slashed through the fog toward Naruko. Naruko smirked. "Got you," she thought, crouching and calling out, "Fire release, flame whirlwind." A spiral of fire erupted around her, engulfing Zabuza, only for her to hear the splash of water and see it was a clone. "Demonic mirroring ice crystals," came Haku's voice. Naruko recognized the technique immediately. Haku's chakra signature was distinct, different from Zabuza's, who was harder to detect due to the mist blending with his own energy. Naruko knew she had to clear the fog. "Wind release, great breakthrough," she shouted, sending a gust of wind to disperse the mist. She landed gracefully on the water, now encased in a dome of reflective ice mirrors. Each mirror reflected Haku. Naruko frowned, assessing the situation. "Finish her, Haku," came Zabuza's command from outside. "1,000 flying water needles," Haku called, sending countless sharpened ice needles toward Naruko. "Fire release, great fire annihilation." Naruko spun in place, unleashing heat strong enough to melt many of the incoming projectiles. One needle grazed her side, causing discomfort, but she stayed focused. She pulled the needle out and winced slightly at the wound. "The mirrors are weakening. Maybe if I overload them," she thought. Asura was right, channel lightning chakra and disrupt the structure. With a burst of speed, Naruko punched one of the mirrors and sent a surge of lightning chakra into it. The electricity traveled through the system, and the mirrors began melting one after another. Haku, stay back. I'll take it from here, Zabuza said calmly. He rushed forward, but to his surprise, Naruko matched his hand signs exactly. So the Sharingan can copy jutsu, Zabuza muttered as they both finished. Water release, water dragon bullet, Naruko shouted. A massive water dragon emerged and slammed into Zabuza, sending him flying into a nearby tree. Haku! Zabuza called. She rushed to his side. A moment of hesitation, Asura observed. Naruko took advantage. She threw a kunai and followed with, fire release, flamethrower. A stream of fire surged toward them. Haku countered, ice release, ice dome of tranquility. The dome shielded them from the flames, though steam filled the air from the clash. Suddenly, another Zabuza appeared behind Naruko, water forming under his feet. Water prison technique, he said, enclosing Naruko, only to discover she vanished in a puff of smoke. A clone. Elsewhere, another Naruko emerged, capturing the real Zabuza in a water prison. The Zabuza who had attacked her was revealed to be a clone as well. Haku moved to help but paused as 5 Naruko clones surrounded her sensei. Then, from a nearby tree, the kunai thrown earlier transformed, revealing another Naruko. She gently but firmly held Haku in place, a kunai near her back. Your move, Naruko said with a calm smirk. Don't let this get to your head, Asura warned. How did you copy the jutsu? You weren't even looking, Zabuza asked from the water prison. Naruko replied, when you let that dragon hit you, I suspected something was off. Plus, your clone didn't have nearly as much chakra. When you recreated the mist, I had a clone observe you and passed on the memory. Just then, Haku's calm voice sounded from behind her. But did you realize I was a clone? Another mirror appeared, and Haku emerged with a senbon aimed at Naruko. Naruko chuckled, yes. I did. A wind-infused kunai shot from a hidden spot, grazing Haku. Zabuza's eyes widened as Haku stumbled. At that moment, the water prison faded, and a Naruko clone used Zabuza's sword to launch a surprise attack. In a swift move, the blade struck forward. But Haku had returned, shielding Zabuza. The sword pierced through both of them. Naruko's eyes widened. Why would you do that? You could have escaped. Haku, now on the ground, smiled softly. You said your name was Naruko, right? She asked, and Naruko nodded. Do you have someone special to you, someone you'd do anything to protect? Naruko paused. She thought of Asura but realized he didn't need protection. She thought of Keiza and his family, not exactly special, but people she wanted to help. Not really, she answered. Someday, you will, Haku said gently. And then you'll understand, she chuckled lightly. I always forget how long Zabuza-sama's sword is. She looked down at the wound, gave a weak smile, then fell unconscious. Naruko carefully removed the blade and laid both Haku and Zabuza down side by side. Zabuza looked up at the sky, tears forming in his eyes. How old are you, kid? He asked. I'm 11. Just had my birthday, Naruko replied softly. To think I'd be stopped by someone so young, Zabuza chuckled, then spoke one final time. Please. Let Haku and I rest together. You can keep the sword if you want. Naruko nodded respectfully. She honored his wish, burying them side by side and placing the sword as a headstone before heading back toward Keiza's house. On her way, she stumbled. Her side throbbed with heat, and she collapsed onto the ground. That needle must have been laced with something, Asura said calmly. Just my luck, Naruko thought as she lost consciousness. Naruko woke in a dark room and realized she was in one of Keiza's guest rooms. She groaned softly, noticing her shirt had been removed and her wound neatly bandaged. She was now wearing clean white pants, standard issue for medical rest. Looks like someone treated the wound. Good thing the poison wasn't strong, Asura said. Naruko stood, stretched, and made her way downstairs. She sought Tsunami and Inari washing dishes. Where's the old man and Keiza? She asked. Tsunami turned, startled but quickly smiling. They went to the bridge to check if everything was safe. They weren't sure whether the enemies had been defeated. Naruko exhaled deeply. They're safe now, she said, then walked toward the window, ready to move forward. I managed to stop them, but one of them used something to weaken me. Thank you for helping me recover, Naruko said gratefully. Tsunami's eyes sparkled with relief, while Inari excitedly began talking about how amazing Naruko was and how he wanted to be just like her someday. I'm heading to the bridge to check on Keiza and Mr. Tazuna. Gato might try something now that he's lost his hired fighters, Naruko said as Tsunami made sure she ate something before leaving. Inari kept pestering her with questions and asked if she would teach him how to be a ninja. Naruko smiled and considered teaching him a few basics before leaving. After finishing breakfast and stretching, Naruko took a walk through the village. She noticed that none of Gato's thugs were around anymore. When she arrived at the bridge, she saw Keiza working alongside some villagers while Tazuna gave instructions. Despite Naruko's previous battle with Zabuza and Haku, the bridge had remained intact, much to everyone's relief. She greeted the workers cheerfully, and they were thrilled to hear that Naruko had protected them from danger. She found a quiet spot beneath a tree and sat down to rest. I sense many sources of chakra, too much for civilians, but not strong enough to be trained ninja, Asura warned her. Naruko's eyes narrowed. Bandits? She wondered. Looking up, she saw 10 boats approaching, each filled with rough-looking individuals. One smaller boat carried a wealthy-looking man, while another carried some equipment that resembled cannons. The man on the small boat grinned smugly as he spotted the bridge and the nervous villagers. So Keiza's still standing, huh? I knew I should have handled this myself, he sneered. Naruko just smiled confidently. Keiza stood firm, undeterred. Gato, your influence over this village ends today, he said calmly. Naruko walked up and stood beside him. You and what army? Gato laughed mockingly. Naruko placed her hands gently on Keiza's shoulders, surprising him. Take a break and gather the villagers. Tell them they're free now. She then turned to Gato. This is the army. Gato looked around, confused. Then he turned back to Naruko and laughed even harder. You think a kid like you can stop me? At his signal, his men began preparing their equipment. But Naruko quickly stepped forward and performed a series of hand signs. She placed her palms on the water's surface and called out, "Water release, water vortex." A large swirl of water formed, pulling the boats into a spinning current. The bandits struggled to escape but couldn't find footing without chakra control. Naruko then leapt into the air and followed up with another technique, fire release, great fireball. A large, glowing orb of flame descended onto the center of the vortex, releasing a powerful surge of steam and scattering the boat's remains. Impressive technique. Great elemental balance, Asura complimented. They underestimated the will of an Uchiha, Naruko responded proudly. That evening, the people of the Land of Waves held a joyful celebration. They visited Gato's old hideouts, hoping to recover supplies and find missing friends. Many children followed Naruko, peppering her with questions about being a ninja. It looks like you've become a symbol of hope to them, Asura observed warmly, watching Naruko interact with everyone. 1 week later. Naruko remained in the Land of Waves for another week, using the time to write several training scrolls. She filled them with chakra control exercises and beginner techniques, planning to leave them for Inari. She also helped him awaken his chakra and gave him some early lessons. Before she left, the entire village gathered to say goodbye. Thanks to Naruko, the bridge had been completed and the village's future looked brighter than ever. Wait, what should we name the bridge? Someone from the crowd shouted. People began tossing out suggestions until a voice called out, how about the Great Naruko Bridge? The young woman who suggested it blushed as everyone turned to look at her. There were murmurs of agreement, and soon everyone settled on the name. Without Naruko, they knew the bridge might never have been finished. Then it's decided. Keiza, now leading the village, called out proudly. Naruko gave a small smile and turned to leave, raising a hand in farewell as cheers echoed behind her. Now, it's time to head toward Uzushiogakur, she thought, following Asura's directions. After some time walking, Naruko suddenly stopped. She pulled a kunai from her gear and threw it into a tree, revealing something hidden. The object moved, revealing a mysterious figure wrapped in plant-like extensions, half white and half black, wearing a dark cloak with red cloud patterns. Naruko recognized him immediately, Zetsu, a strange creation once tied to the infamous Madara. What are you doing here, Zetsu? Naruko asked cautiously. Obito asked me to follow you and make sure you weren't straying from the Akatsuki's interests, Zetsu answered, his two halves speaking alternately. Naruko kept her expression calm and unreadable. If you're trying to provoke something, I suggest you turn back, she warned, confident but alert. I'll let you sense me for a reason, Zetsu replied. And what would that be? Naruko asked, now curious. I'll explain that after I share something important, Zetsu continued. On the night you were taken from Konoha, Shisui Uchiha, your older sibling, was protecting someone. A young girl, now 11 years old, named Sarin. Your twin sister. Naruko's eyes widened slightly, but she remained quiet. Obito left her because he had just faced the fourth Hokage and was too weak to take on Shisui as well, Zetsu explained. Shisui lived for about 7 more years, and eventually assisted his friend Itachi in a battle against a powerful Uchiha named Sin. Despite both of them fighting, Shisui didn't survive the encounter. That loss pushed Itachi to awaken a special power, though it wasn't enough to stop Sin, who escaped. Naruko took a moment to process everything. She had a twin sister. Why had this been hidden from her? Who were my parents? She finally asked. Zetsu paused, then said, your mother was Naori Uchiha, and your father was a man known as Tami Uchiha, though he was originally a Tama Senju, adopted by Uchiha civilians. He never knew his Senju roots, but that didn't stop him from becoming a skilled ninja. Your mother had awakened a rare ability in her eyes, but even that couldn't protect her during the Night of the Nine Tails attack. Naruko was about to speak again when Zetsu began sinking into the earth. I told you all of this for a reason. I won't be following you anymore. But remember, your sister Sarin is precious. It would be unfortunate if anything were to happen to her, he said ominously before vanishing completely. That thing cannot be trusted, Asura warned. But she's safe in Konoha, protected by powerful allies like Minato, Tsunade, and Jiraiya. Still, the Akatsuki have strong members like Obito, Kisame, and Pain. I can't ignore that, Naruko thought, uneasily recalling her first encounter with Pain. Let's keep moving. Once we reach Uzushio, we can regroup and decide our next steps, Asura said. Naruko nodded silently and continued on the path, her thoughts drifting back to the day she first came face to face with Pain. Flashback. At 8 years old, Naruko Uchiha was traveling with Obito and Zetsu toward Amigakure, the village hidden by the rain. Their goal was to approach Akatsuki, an organization said to be led by a powerful individual known for wielding the legendary Rinnegan. This was something Madara had spoken about extensively. Obito had already been coordinating with Nagato, the leader of Akatsuki, and had made several arrangements in advance. As they approached the meeting point, Obito lifted his hand, signaling Naruko and Zetsu to pause. A moment later, he used his Kamui technique to warp all 3 of them directly to where Nagato's paths were located. Naruko looked into the dimly lit room and noticed several shadowy figures standing quietly. 2 of them stood clearly visible in the open. One of them, whom Naruko identified from Obito's descriptions, was Pain, a figure with spiky orange hair and several metal piercings. Though Pain wore a calm expression, his aura suggested someone of great presence. He wore the signature Akatsuki cloak and a Rain Village headband marked with a horizontal line, symbolizing his departure from that allegiance. Standing next to him was Konan, a tall, composed woman with short blue hair and amber eyes highlighted with lavender eyeshadow. She wore a delicate paper flower in her hair and the Akatsuki cloak as well. Who is the child? Pain asked with a neutral tone, his gaze steady on Obito. This is Naruko Uchiha. She's still growing into her potential, Obito replied calmly. Naruko met Pain's gaze without hesitation, her Sharingan active and bright. She liked keeping it activated, it reminded her of Madara and Obito, both highly skilled shinobi she admired. We need more skilled members, Obito began. I've identified 3 strong candidates so far, Kakuzu, known for his unusual techniques, Sasori, a master puppeteer, and Sin Uchiha, who I will personally bring into the fold. Zetsu will assist in finding others with exceptional abilities. Pain looked away from Naruko and returned his focus to Obito. Very well. I will follow the plan for now, since our visions align. But keep in mind, I lead this organization. I cooperate because I choose to. Obito's eyes narrowed slightly, and he raised his hand toward the wall behind Naruko. A burst of energy erupted, shaking part of the wall and causing debris to fall. Naruko quickly stepped aside, avoiding any falling fragments. Without further conflict, Obito nodded and placed a hand on Naruko's shoulder. The 2 disappeared again within the swirling dimension of Kamui. That night, after a training session with Madara, Naruko whispered a phrase to herself, repeating Pain's words with admiration, because I want to. The Rinnegan is an extraordinary ability, my father once mastered it, came a voice in her mind. It was Asura, her ancestor, speaking with pride. Rinnegan, she whispered, thinking back to the moment Pain demonstrated his power without lifting a finger. Present. Which one do you think is stronger, Rinnegan or Mangekyo Sharingan? Naruko asked Asura. That depends entirely on the user. Both are powerful in different ways, Asura responded. As Naruko neared a new village, she noticed many of the buildings were damaged. One structure at the center stood taller than the rest, though it, too, was partially ruined. On the building's side, a swirl-like pattern caught her eye. This village had many tall structures, Asura commented, observing the area with a sense of nostalgia. Naruko noticed a wide river flowing through the village and broken bridges connecting parts of the land. Surrounding hills framed the landscape, creating a solemn beauty. Where should I go now? This was your idea, Naruko asked. Try that large building in the center. It's damaged but still standing, came Asura's thoughtful reply. Naruko didn't respond but sprinted toward the structure. She entered through the broken doors and explored it thoroughly. After a long search, she discovered this was once the cage tower. The only room she hadn't checked yet was the cage's office. It remained mostly intact because the attackers had to retreat quickly when reinforcements were on their way. Naruko noticed no signs of conflict inside. As she entered, she found a desk, some chairs, and several old storage cabinets. She managed to unlock them by channeling chakra through her hand. Inside, she discovered uniforms for various ninja ranks, a few scrolls with techniques, and a beautifully crafted sword. I'm more of a jutsu type than a sword user, she murmured with a small smile. Keep it. You might meet someone who can teach you how to wield it, Asura advised. After some hesitation, and a bit of back and forth with Asura, Naruko decided to keep the sword. It had a black handle, a white blade, and a sheath engraved with chakra-absorbing seals. She attached it to her back using chakra threads. She then noticed the cage's outfit, a white kimono with a black sash. It reminded her of Asura's robes. With a small smile, she changed into it and fastened a blank headband on her forehead. Asura couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. His descendant was following in his footsteps, both in appearance and determination. Naruko sealed the jutsu scrolls into a storage scroll and clipped it to her side. Looking into a cracked mirror nearby, she admired her new appearance with a confident smile. Naruko, would you like to stay here for a while and train? We could rebuild this village as your own training ground, Asura suggested. I'd love that. It'd also help me learn more about where Grandma Mito came from, she said warmly, stepping out to look over the village. Just be prepared to eat a lot of fish, it's about the only thing available around here, Asura added playfully. Naruko sighed, already dreading the repetitive meals. Let's work on chakra control first. Your heritage gives you an incredible chakra reserve, but learning to manage it precisely will take effort. Fortunately, you also carry strong lineage from both the Senju and Uchiha clans, which gives you an advantage. Got it, she nodded, listening intently. Once you're older, I'll teach you how to use your yang chakra and unlock more abilities you've inherited. But only when you're ready. Power earned through effort is always stronger. Come on, Asura. I can handle it now. She pouted. I understand your eagerness. But I want you to grow steadily, not chase strength recklessly. You're not like my brother Indra. You have a good heart, Asura replied gently. Though slightly disappointed, Naruko respected his decision and nodded. She opened a window and leapt out, running through the village with purpose. One day, I'll meet you, Sarin-chan, Naruko promised herself softly, activating her Sharingan as she disappeared into the distance. Alright everyone, that's a wrap for now. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. Thanks for watching, this is Six Path Weeb, signing off. Until next time.